Good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you to today's highly awaited workshop, Unmasking the Criminal Mind, Forensic Psychology in Practicing, organized by Thinks. We are thrilled to have tomorrow's leaders joining us for an event that promises not only knowledge but also meaningful interaction and practical insights into the fascinating field of forensic psychology. Have you ever wondered what goes in the mind of those who break the law? That curiosity is exactly what we are about to tap into tonight. And over the next 2 days, this workshop will help you explore the principles behind forensic psychology, analyze criminal behavior, and apply these concepts to real life cases. From August 26th to 28th, starting at 9 p.m. each night, we'll be unlocking the secrets behind criminal investigations with an expert who has truly walked both sides of the path, corporate and academic. Let me introduce our workshop speaker, Ms. Charu Saklani, educator at Thinks. Ms. Saklani completed her bachelor's from Golgotha's University and her master's from Delhi University. She's worked as a security analyst, forensic auditor, and risk assessment officer, bringing her experience to organizations that require the sharpest minds for security and problem solving. And that's not all. Ms. Saklani is a dedicated researcher in forensic psychology, especially criminal psychology, and she's transitioned into academia, nurturing students first at Uttaranchal University and now as assistant professor at Uttarakhand University. This is your chance to ask questions, discuss, and learn directly from our educator. I'd like to welcome Ms. Charu Saklani to take us into the depth of forensic psychology and help us truly unmask the criminal minds. Please, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Tanya, for such a warm welcome. And I'm really excited to walk you through the pathway of criminal and forensic psychology. So I hope you guys are ready and I'm audible to you all. Am I?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay, great, great.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
today is the first day of our session of 3 days, and I'll walk you through the basics of forensic psychology, and I hope it will encourage you all, into diving in for advanced courses as well. So let's get started, and I hope you guys do learn something. So please let me know if the screen is visible to you all.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Give me a minute. Okay. So topic for the session is unmasking the criminal. I'm hoping I'm audible now. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So sorry for this delay. I know it's very frustrating. Okay, so we are starting with it. Okay. So foundation we have covered. So basic overview of this session will be that we'll be learning about forensic psychology. Okay, that says that it applies psychological principles to legal issues. So if we are combining psychology with forensic, we have to remember just psychological principles are not enough. We have to apply those principles in legal issues, in courtrooms. Okay, so focusing on understanding offenders and helping the justice system. I mean, we have to dive into the criminal mindset as long as helping it into getting into courtroom. Okay, so how it begins? It begins with Cesar Lombroso's criminal anthropology, and right now we are facing and we are having this modern neuroforensic approaches that integrates neuroscience with legal standards. So neuroscience is something that we are applying into solving different kind of cases and getting inside the criminal's head. Okay, and how it is different from criminology. Basically, in criminology, we just are focused for law. Okay, but in forensic psychology, we involve social phenomenal psychiatry that focuses on mental disorder and that emphasize into the legal context of it. So that is how the criminology is different from forensic psychology. All right. Now we'll move on to the concepts of forensic psychologies. So basically, forensic psychology runs into the three major pillars. A, the role. What is the role of forensic psychologist? So what we do is, as a forensic psychologist, we do help in criminal investigation. How? We evaluate competency to stand trial. What competency is, we'll get to know in the second pillar. So we evaluate that, we are providing R&D, and then later on, we do work in rehabs also. Okay, after the verdict, whatsoever it is, whether it is in the favor of the person or against it, whether a person is criminal or walks free out of the courtroom, we do provide rehabilitation. Sometime what happen is a criminal do some crime in the influence of some disorders. So to provide a rehabilitation is also our responsibility in order to make or frame that person into a better individual so that he won't be indulging himself into the crimes again. Got it? The second pillar is competency. Competency, what competency is, basically a person has to be competent. That means the person has to be has having a understanding, basic understanding of how a court proceeding happens. That means he should know that what can be there, what can be done to defend himself, how a fair trial happens, and how he can present himself in court of law. If an individual possess such kind of understanding, that means that person is competent. So basically, we have to evaluate the competency. Otherwise, there's no way of carrying forward that trial. All right. And the third one is criminal responsibility. That means a forensic psychologist do assess whether an individual understand the nature of their actions. I mean, whether a person understand that if he or she is committing certain kind of crime, does he know that what repercussion that crime brings, that action brings, uh, how his action affects the other individual. So basically, the understanding between a person and the crime has to be there, and that is kind of our responsibility to assist that. All right. Then there are some theories in which a criminal behavior is assessed. So criminal behavior has been studied through various lenses. All right, there comes many individuals who have their thoughts, their theories that how to define a criminal behavior and how to categorize them. But we'll be learning about three theories. A, the biological theory will be Ising's theory. B, a psychological theory that has been given by Freud, and sociological theories. That is a strain theory. Okay, so we'll move on to the biological theory given by Ising's. Okay, so Ising's proposed that a criminal's personalities are three-dimensional. So the personality traits significantly influenced by biological factor. That means biologically an individual is also
Ma'am, again your voice is not clear.
that okay. My internet is glitching fine. I don't know why it is happening. Is it clear now?
Yes, yes, now.
Okay. So should I repeat this theory or I should move forward?
Ma'am, please repeat it.
Okay, sure. No issues. So Ising theory is about the personality, a criminal's personality that is influenced by biological factors. Okay. So according to Hans J. Ising, he said that an individual is already predisposed. That means he or she already possess some criminal behavior via biological factors. That means there are three primary dimension of personalities that an individual possess and have the tendency towards criminality. So they are the three personality: PEN. P for psychoticism, E for extraversion, and N for neuroticism. So we'll get to know more about them. So psychoticism, basically, they are the traits exhibited by an individual like aggressiveness, impulsivity that leads to antisocial behavior. And it is kind of a trait that, am I audible right? Please do interrupt if any given
Yes, ma'am,
point of
audible,
time.
ma'am.
Sure, sure. If I'm not audible at any given point of time, please do interrupt. Okay. Okay. So according to psychoticism, if a person exhibit traits like aggressiveness or impulsivity, so they are more likely to be antisocial and they try to avoid social interaction. Okay. Then we'll move on to extroversion. That means a person is very extrovert and they are always so much stimulated or excited that basically leads them to get engaged into risky or criminal activities. Okay, they always want to try something new, they always wants to try something risky. So that stimulate or aggravate themselves to do something criminal. All right, in order to get always excited. Next is neuroticism. That means a person is very neurotic. That means neurotic as in they are not emotionally stable. They always make irrational decisions. And if under stress, they won't be able to take a decision that is right, morally, in fact. So that is also a tendency that leads to criminal behavior later on. Okay. And these are the personality traits given by Isaacs. Okay, these are not short key. If you find somebody very extrovert, you're very impulsive, very aggressive, that's not a criteria always to consider somebody a criminal. All right, this is just the theory based on theory of Ising. Okay. So now what Isaac integrate into behavior are is basically criminality and conditioning. Okay, criminality is somewhere based onto the conditioning of an individual. How a person, we call it upbringing in layman language. Yeah, how a person is being nurtured. All right. So few individual reacts to punishment. Let's say somebody did something wrong and the parent or the teacher or somebody who's elder to that person immediately gave a punishment of that crime, not just crime, any action. Okay, so sometime what happen is a person learns from the mistake and the punishment is something that scares that person and he won't be repeating that mistake again. But some in extroverts response, it might not be effective to give them punishment. Okay, so this is about conditioning, how a person responds to certain actions. Okay, so in extrovert response, it is said that it may not respond effectively to punishment, undermining conditioning efforts. Okay, what it will do is it will undermine their efforts, but not positively will be a good response to give to an extrovert person. Then it comes to neurotic or psychotic factor. So these individuals usually face emotional stability. Okay, so the conditioning cannot be consistent. I mean, one or single kind of approach can't work on them. We have to keep on, you know, motivate each other to do something new, try something new with them. So, because they lack empathy and their moral learning is very complicated. So we cannot apply same kind of conditioning with these three personalities. That is what Isaacs integrated. Now, he has given a theory, but every theory has some drawback. And in this particular theory, there were some validity concerns. That, first of all, the findings that he had were kind of not reliable. Okay, the measurement, the trait, what he suggested was not applicable to all. Just a minute ago, I've told you that not all aggressive personalities, not all emotionally unavailable people, or the extrovert people tends to be a criminal, right? So this kind of theory wasn't reliable enough because it was kind of inconsistent. Okay. Secondly, what he did was he kind of neglected the situational influence. What if a person is being negative or aggressive about few and some situations? Not all the time he is being aggressive, but situational aggression is there. So this theory won't be proving that every aggressive action leads to criminal activity. Next, there were some alternative models that proves that there were some other approaches as well in order to consider criminal activity or criminal behavior. So these were basically the validity concerns that Ising theory had. But we got to know from this theory that actually there were some traits who can be linked with criminal behavior, not considerate enough, but considerable enough, but it can be linked to criminal behavior. So basically, Ising theory was a base of many theories that came along. There were also some cultural limitations as well. As in, if you see India, if you consider India only, there are some reasons where very their language is very polite, very soft spoken people are there. But at the same time, other people means well as well. But their language, their way accent or their conduct is kind of harsh. और जिसको हम layman language में जिस बोलते हैं खड़ी बोली बोलते हैं, they're very harsh with their dialect, but they mean well. So we cannot say if somebody tends to be aggressive or blunt, they will be a criminal afterwards. Okay. So these kind of cultural limitations were also there. Secondly, the research that he has conducted were very small and the sample size was based on a particular region, and we cannot link or correlate it with further outward. All right. And with different world, different cultures, the outcomes can be different. So these were the limitations as well. And these were the reference limitation based on the culture. Sometimes personalities also are very different. I mean, the kind of upbringing a family brings to a individual is very different. So we are not liable to categorize them into certain criteria based on their personality only. There has to be some additions, and there has to be some supportive evidence that that person can be a criminal. All right. Based on the personality, we cannot consider a person criminal. All right. So how Ising theory contributed to forensic psychology? Yes, there were limitations as we discussed, but it there was a contribution factor as well. So first of all, the biology, psychology, and criminal behavior was linked because of his theory. Secondly, there were some differences between individual who were not criminal and individual who were criminal. All right, their significance came out in open, and other people got a point to research afterwards. All right. And then, based on that, a contemporary criminology and forensic psychology assessment tool was involved and invented at the same time, that how can we remove the risk of an individual turning into a criminal based on the behavior and personality. All right. So these were the contribution that after his theory we got to know. Next theory was Freud's theory. So the Freud's theory transformed the field of psychology by delving into unconscious mind, examining human behavior, and uncovering the complexity of personality. So the personality thing we already discussed, but what Freud did was he made us realize that sometime unconsciously our mind develops certain kind of behavior, and that can lead to certain actions. So he examined human behavior based on their unconscious mind. Okay, and he brought us concept of it, ego and superego. What are those? We'll get to know in the next slide. So first of all, we'll be understanding what unconscious mind is. Okay, unconsciousness का अगर हम एक overview लेते हैं तो we'll get to know that how our repressed memories, desires, experience can influence our behavior and emotion. We all have been through it, that if we went through some traumatic experiences, it comes across our behavior. And we'll next time if we have a thought of getting into same kind of trauma, our responses will change. All right. So this is some unconscious behavior that we possess because of that experiences or some kind of desire. Sometimes we feel like doing something. Take commonest example, if somebody is irritating us but we feel like slapping that person. Okay, it's our conscious mind that stops us doing so, but unconsciously we are feeling such kind of desire. Okay, and sometime a person is capable of controlling it, other time it is not, so that can lead to a crime. All right, so this is the concept of unconscious mind. Second thing was dream analysis. So he proposed that dream as the pathway to the unconsciousness. Okay, so through dreams we can reveal some desires of ours. Sometimes what we dream of becomes our desire. We dreamed of something very beautiful, a beautiful house, a beautiful car. Later on, it becomes our desire that we need to have this thing. So, according to Freud, the analysis of dream can bring an insight into person's psyche. We can get to know the psychological perspective or psychological evaluation can be done on the basis of how a person dreams and what a person's dreams about. All right. And the last one is free association. So this is basically a technique that involves a patient speaking freely. I mean, we are sitting with the patient and we are asking him about any topic that we want to know about. All right, and that person is speaking without any judgment, and he is feeling that he is just conversating. But deep down, we are analyzing how a person thinks about a certain factor, a certain thing, a certain topic. Okay, that gives us a therapeutic insight inside a person's mind, that how he feels like when he is not being judged. Otherwise, what happen is if we know that the person sitting in front of us will be judging us, me. Okay, what we do is we manipulate the desire, we manipulate the truth, and we try to act innocent, we try to act right. All right. And if we know that the other person won't be judging me, so we talk our mind, and that is how we get to know about certain feelings or certain desires of a person that can lead to criminal behavior. All right. So now, what Freud did was, that, as I've mentioned earlier, he divided the personality into three categories. First is id, second is ego, and third is superego. Now, this is very interesting. Why? Because most of us, what we do is we throw this word ego very easily, and we kind of term this ego thing in a negative way. But actually, ego is not that bad. Whatever we have this perspective about the word ego is actually id, id. Okay, so we'll know how. So the id is operate on the pleasure principle. Basically, id is something, a personality trait of ours that demands things, that desires things. Okay. So basically, it desires something that is not acceptable to the society. Okay. That doesn't fit into the societal norms. And this is where the difference between society and an individual happens. And we often call it ego, but I hope from now onwards you will be knowing that that's not ego, that's id, the unreasonable demand, the satisfaction of the desires that are unreasonable. Okay, so if a person acts upon it, that is id. And what ego is? Ego is something that balances our unreasonable desires with the reality. I mean, if you are desiring that we'll be running onto somebody's house, breaking it, and stealing something out of it, that's our id talking. But ego, what ego does is ego will makes us realize no, this is not morally right, and there will be repercussion of it. So ego creates a balance between the desire and the reality. And ego also is a defense mechanism. Okay, because if a desire is not being fulfilled, we sometimes tends to get anxious. That's very obvious. Okay, if we are, take another simple example. If we are craving for chocolate at any given point of time and we're not getting chocolate, sometimes individual can get anxious. Okay. But ego can tell you that this is not the right time or you had enough, just skip it for now. So that's the work of ego. All right. Balancing between unreasonable desires and the reality. Now, the third thing is super ego. What super ego is, that is exactly something that our parents, our elders, or our teachers tells us to do. Basically, it's high moral ground. Okay, that tells us, I'm sorry, that tells us that what is exactly the right thing to do, that you should go for. I mean, this is the high moral ground, ultimate moral thing to do. So it will put you in a place that where you are extremely right about everything. It might put you into guilt because you're not fulfilling your certain desire. So it might be making you feel guilty about it, but you are in the ground of what every parent's dream, that our child is doing everything fine. Okay, that's our super ego. That doesn't mean that a person can have only id or only ego or only super ego. Sometimes a person's personality comprises three of them. So certain actions will be the call of id, certain actions will be the call of ego, and certain actions will be the call of super ego. It just depends upon the actions. Okay. So to summarize it, we can say that it is basically our instincts, what our desires makes us do. Ego is something that makes us rational, to take rational decisions, not to suppress the desire completely, but not to break any law. So that's ego. And super ego is our moral conscience that allows us to do everything right, to every moral ground and fit us into the society. What society calls is idle bacha. That's our super ego. All right. Now, there are certain defense mechanism according to Freud. Okay. Defense mechanism are basically the strategies that our unconscious mind plays. Example, sometime you feel like if you're confronting a person that you did something wrong, as a defense mechanism, the person blames it back to you that because of you, I did something wrong. Okay, that is one example of defense mechanism. All right. So this is basically an unconscious approach of an individual in order to protect one from getting blamed or maintaining a psychological balance, okay, and not feeling anxious about himself or herself. So that's a defense mechanism. Okay, how it works is it repress, ठीक है, it repress us in understanding the ground of other individuals. It is basically a denial mode that we are not accepting this, whatever you are saying is wrong. All right. Or sometimes it do project other your own feeling onto others that I am feeling in a certain way and this is the right thing to feel about. All right. So this is basically how defense mechanism plays out. Up now, what is the role of defense mechanism in therapy? So if we get to know how a person cope with certain argument or actions or depression, anxiety, and how a person is projecting things onto other, will able to understand that what is the underlying issue, and we can confront that issue as a therapist, and then we'll be promoting healing and personal growth. So defense mechanism actually is the key to the growth. If we'll be able to figure out how a person's defense mechanism works, we'll be able to understand the problem and to heal the person out. All right. Now, there were some certain impacts that fruits theory brings out in the society. So, first of all, it laid the groundwork for modern psychology or psychoanalysis to work because we understood the personality traits of an individual, why certain individuals do certain actions. So, it was a groundwork. It was not the ultimate theory to consider that it will tell everything about criminal behavior, but it was something to be taken as a base for further analysis and further research about us criminal behavior. All right. So it basically it was a network that has different branches to be explored forward. All right. And his theory his theory was evolved into various theories that is used today and are very effective. So big thanks to Sigmund Freud's theory that we have certain developed and evolved methods in order to get into criminal's mind or in general an individual's mind. All right. Now at the end, we have a very interesting case study, namely John Hinckley Jr. case study. All right. So there was a case. Has anybody heard about this case? Please let me know right now.
Yes, ma'am, I have heard.
Who's there? Sorry, didn't get you. Okay, only one individual. Okay, it's fine. So, this is a very interesting case study that really highlights how a psychological disorder leads to different and severe consequences, be that a crime or hurting some individual. All right. So, what happened is John Hinckley Jr., he was born on May 29, 1955, in Oklahoma. All right. I'm sorry. Sorry. So he was from a very wealthy family, but the family wasn't that much emotionally supportive. That led to his emotional instability and depression and isolation. So he was very introverted, all right, because of the family dynamics. So in order to get out of the depression, yeah, loneliness, he got himself into different movies and he got obsessed with watching movies. Particularly, there was a movie, Taxi Driver. I would like you all to go and watch this movie. It is again based on a individual who psychologically was not right. All right. So in this, there was a protagonist, okay, the lead, who actually plans for assassination of a political individual. All right. And why he was doing it? To impress certain women. And turns out that woman was played by actress Jodie Foster. So by getting impressed and by getting, influenced by this particular movie, he got obsessed with Jodie Foster, and he kept on writing letters, making phone calls, and even stalking her. All right. So now he decided that I need to impress this lady, and according to the movie, if I need to impress this lady, I need to assassinate some politician. All right. But what he did was he targeted US president at that time in 1981, Ronald Reagan. So he literally fired 6 shots outside Washington Hilton Hotel, and the region Reagan got injured. All right, as well as the secretary James Brady and another police officer and a Secret Service agent. He manages to injure all of them. Later on, he claimed that whatever he has done it to impress Jodie Foster. All right. And how he got this idea? By the movie Taxi Driver. All right. So that was really disturbing because the motive was not even real. I mean, the if he has gone through a real reality perspective, he should know that he won't be getting Jodie Foster's attention like that. And it is not morally right to go on a shooting spree without any actual motive or actual rage against the individual that he shot fires to. All right. So now later on, when his psychological profile got analyzed, they got to know that he was very obsessive or fixate. He was fixated on Jodie Foster, fixated, very rigidly following somebody. All right. And he wasn't getting over of the fact that he needs to get in contact with Jodie Foster. And he also got diagnosed with schizoid personality disorder, where he was very panicky, very impulsive. He wasn't looking at the repercussion of his actions. All right. And also, he was very depressed. Okay, he was narcissist as well, and he was having a dependency, and dependency on what? Dependency on the movie in order to feel better about himself. All right, and later on, the expert testifies that he was suffering from psychosis as well. Psychosis will study about this in the advanced classes as well. But let me brief you about what psychosis is. Psychosis is basically a mental disorder that leads to hallucination, and though it takes people away from the reality. All right. So at the time of shooting, he was going through the psychosis as well. Now, what happened in the trial? His defense obviously argued that he is not guilty under the Insanity Act. I hope you all know, if a person is insane, he cannot be run into the trial, and he cannot be convicted for that. All right. So the expert also presented evidence that this person was mentally ill and also delusional. So in 1982, he was found not guilty. Okay, and the reason was insanity. So he was kept into a psychiatric hospital for almost 30 years. All right, and then later on, he was released, and but also he was under the supervision that, God forbid, but he didn't do anything wrong in future. Okay, so in 2022 he was granted unconditional release, deemed no longer dangerous. So imagine, around 30-40 years he was under the supervision, because that kind of personality can lead to severe criminal consequences and can injure many people and can affect and put their life into dangerous situations. All right. So this is what a mental or psychological disorder can lead to. So this is something to study, something to get hold of, and also the rehab is very important. We have studied about it now. In the first second slide we discussed that as a forensic psychologist we do provide rehabs also, because it's very important. What if there was no proper psychiatric consultancy of this individual, and he again went on a shooting spree and killed some individuals. So the rehab part is also very important when it comes to forensic psychology and criminal behavior. All right. So that's it for this session. And if you guys have some question, please do ask. Any questions?
मैम एक्चुअली कोई केस स्टडी का एग्जांपल जो हम लोग आगे रीड कर सके.
Sorry, I didn't get you. Please do repeat.
मैम कोई केस स्टडी लाइक अभी आप जिस केस स्टडी के बारे में बताए वैसा ही कोई और केस स्टडी जो हम लोग मतलब
Uh,
ऐसे स्टडी कर पाए.
yes, there are number of cases like Ted Bundy, the Zodiac killer. Every case like that involves some psychological problems that were studied later and found out that they are going through some serious mental disorders that leads to criminal behavior and the crime.
मैम और एक क्वेश्चन था कि आपने अभी जिस
हाँ.
केस के बारे में बताया ये
हम्म.
पहली बार था कि कोर्ट में इंसैनिटी डिफेंस यूज हुआ था.
पहली बार तो नहीं था बट एक्चुअली ही वाज द ओनली पर्सन एट दैट टाइम हु वाज लाइक अंडर द साइकेट्रिक supervision and the rehab thing was introduced and because there was law not guilty by reason insanity that is called NGRI. There was law back then but he was the one जिसको supervision में रखा गया even after the release.
थैंक यू मैम.
No, you're welcome. Anyone else? I guess this is it. And I would really like to apologize to you all because of the network condition. We lost few minutes.
Thank you all
Ma'am,
for
this
your active.
session was amazing.
Okay, I'm glad you guys liked it.
Thank you all for your active participation in today's workshop. We've had an engaging evening exploring forensic psychology and criminal behavior together. Remember, we are just getting started with we have 2 more days with ma'am, which will help us get even more deeper knowledge. Looking forward to seeing everyone again for more learning and discussion. Have a great night and see you tomorrow. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you all. Cuckoo.
Everyone is